Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, I want to show you the best MP5 class for Warzone. Now that the AUG has been nerfed and the MP5 is not only the pro weapon that I talked about in the last episode, but the most popular SMG, I wanted to really try to max min this and come up with the best possible class. And my goal for today is make a pure bonus stat MP5 class. And what I mean by that is a weapon that's better in every measurable way than the base version. And that's kind of a rare thing to do in Modern Warfare. A lot of the attachments have downsides. You know, you'll make it slower, you'll make the range great, but the recoil high or something goofy like that. I want a weapon that is pure bonus for you guys. And Warzone requires some range, sound suppression, and it requires more recoil control than multiplayer because you're going to be fighting people longer away. So we can't just recreate the same old class from the last in depth. To start off with, we have to have a suppressor, or at least a suppressed barrel. Warzone is all about sound suppression and information and situational awareness and knowledge, and you just don't want to be giving your position away if you can avoid it, so we have to have a suppressor of some kind. There are two strong ones on the MP5, which are the monolithic suppressor, that's the most popular one, and there is a subsonic integral suppressor barrel that also removes your tracers and enemy skulls and a lot of great stuff, but I wanted to take a look at how they stack up statistically speaking. The base MP5 has a range of 11 meters, and if you put a monolithic suppressor on there, you get only a small boost up to about 12 meters. However, if you put on the subsonic integral suppressor, it goes down to 8 meters. So you have a pretty big loss right there. And I think the clear, smart decision is to go with the monolithic suppressor. But the problem with that is that it slows down aim down sights time. So we're already not at a pure bonus gun. I did want to show you what these ranges looks like. This is the 3-shot kill range of the base MP5. So exactly 11 meters. And when we swap over to my soon-to-be recommended class that has the monolithic suppressor, it has a 3-shot kill range of 12 meters, which isn't very much, and in my opinion is difficult to notice in many cases, but you get the sound suppression without hurting your range, and you want to maintain your range in Warzone because you will use this at a little bit longer range than multiplayer. Now we have to solve the problem of aim down sights times, and I've got some stats here for you on the page. The base MP5 has an ADS time of 200 milliseconds. If you put stippled grip on there, it's it's like in between 183 and 200. I put a star on it right there because we're in like frame rounding territory. The FSS close quarters combat stock is 167 milliseconds, and the FTAC collapsible or smallest possible stock is 183 milliseconds, which is a little bit surprising because typically no stock is the fastest one, but for the MP5 that's not the case. In the case of the collapsible stock, however, you will also slightly increase your movement speed, which is nice, but it's going to make your weapon kick more as you lose recoil control because you can't, press it up against your chest, and it's going to change iron sights, which is something that a lot of people forget about. You can see this on the screen right now with the base MP5 on the left and the collapsible stock on the right. The collapsible stock is going to make the sights smaller and more forward facing, so it's more difficult to see your enemies and track them during moments of high recoil, and that's one of the biggest things that I don't like about this attachment. So in my opinion, I think we should go with the FSS close quarters combat stock and the monolithic suppressor because that stock has the fastest aim down sights time without hurting our recoil or our very nice MP5 iron sights. The next part of this episode's very, very straightforward. Commando Grip reduces horizontal recoil. That's pretty much a given attachment on the MP5 or honestly almost any weapon in Warzone. The Commando 4 Grip is just going to greatly increase the predictability of your aim and leave it only with vertical recoil, which is a lot easier to control in my opinion. And I did want to do some comparisons here so you can see the magnitude of this change. First up, we have the plain Jane base MP5 with no attachments. Then we have the MP5 with the Commando 4 Grip attached. And then we have the one that I am recommending today, which has a couple other attachments, but none that change recoil. And when you take a look at the wall, you will see that the recoil pattern isn't like radically crazy, mind-blowing different, but it is more consistent with the Commando Grip on there. And especially on the right-hand side, you can see it's much, much tighter and much more consistent. Even though I shot more bullets, it doesn't look that different. So overall, we have a nice recoil increase, and that's going to mean that you're going to miss less of those crucial shots at medium ranges. A very important part of today's video is I want to tell you that the MP5 10mm rounds do not increase damage. They only increase the range of your bullets, the effective damage over range. And while they do give you a nice range boost, they do increase recoil and they will slightly slow down your rate of fire. So when you put the 10mm rounds on there, that's actually worse than running nothing at all because you have a slower time time to kill and more recoil, which is something that, in my opinion, is not worth having the tiny range boost for. So for our class, we're going to be recommending the 45 round mags, even though they will have a very slight move speed penalty. Typically, this is somewhere between 1 and 2%. They give you more bullets to spray down enemies, more bullets to BM and finish, less to reload, and the 45 round mags is pretty much just a given on the MP5 in Warzone. This is also a great place to talk about time to kill on these weapons. We're primarily comparing it to the AUG 556 because that used to be the king of all SMGs or almost everything, but it was recently nerfed to where it is no longer the king. The AUG 556 has a slower time to kill now, compared to the MP5, which is 545 on the AUG and 525 on the MP5. So they are very, very close. You're almost never going to feel or notice this difference in a real gunfight, but it is there, and the MP5 is technically faster. I do want to point out, though, that the AUG still deals more damage per shot individually and has better range, but at the end of the day, the MP5 will kill people faster in close quarters combat. And the last attachment that we have to recommend today is kind of a freebie. It can be almost anything you want. I think that there are some choices better than others, but it's not the most important because we've kind of already built what is effectively a pure bonus class. I personally prefer to run stippled grip tape or maybe a gun perk such as fully loaded, so I can get a fully loaded MP5, sleight of hand, FMJ to punch through walls, frangible wounding's really annoying, something like that. But I usually go with stippled grip tape because it'll boost my aim down sights time just a little bit more, and it'll help my sprint out time just a little bit more. These are tiny helps. These are like 1 frame. They're almost, unmeasurable, but they are there. And if I'm not going to run stippled grip tape or gun perk, I guess you could put maybe an optic on there, but I don't think that's necessary because the MP5 already has great iron sights, so I wouldn't run that. So after all of that statistical comparison, here is my best MP5 class for Warzone. You want the Commando Grip, the 45 round mags, the monolithic suppressor, the stippled grip, and the FSS close quarters combat stock. When you do that, you end up with almost a pure bonus SMG. I didn't quite hit my goal today. This class is pure bonus in statistics in every single way, except you have about a 1% move speed penalty. Putting larger mags on the gun slows down your movement speed just a tiny bit, and in my opinion, that's going to be negligible because it's so small that very rarely would you ever actually notice this in game, and it's actually a little bit difficult to test for compared to other things. So let's take a look at the base MP5 and see how we improved on it. The base MP5 stats, the ones that are important, mind you, is the aim down sights time is 200 milliseconds, sprint out is 150, and it has a range of 11 meters with no real nice bonuses or anything like that. The one that I'm going to recommend has an aim down sights time of 183 milliseconds, so you save yourself a frame. Sprint out time is still about 150, but we're hitting that frame rounding territory with the stippled grip, so it's kind of like splitting like half frames there. It might technically be faster depending on your rig. You've got an extra meter of range, which isn't essential, but it's nice. Your weapon is suppressed, your weapon has less recoil, and your weapon has bigger mags, so you've got a lot of bonus just kind of all around. A build like this, or statistical improvements like this, aren't crazy compared to the stuff that I would probably do in base multiplayer. In base multiplayer, I'd make a stupidly fast, snappy MP5, or one that has no recoil and crazy range and stuff, but Warzone requires an overall robust weapon that can be very versatile and handles itself well in a lot of situations. So instead of putting all of my eggs in one basket to do something like increase range, I decided to slightly improve everything so that the weapon handles well in every single situation. And I know that there are a lot of professional players out there and sweaty boys that are big fans of no stock and collapsible stock, but in my experience, these just have too many downsides to use on not just the MP5, but almost any weapon. I don't like my recoil going up, I don't like the change in iron sights, and the move speed just really isn't worth it in my opinion. Another thing that surprised me is quite a few weapons, the close quarters combat stock will actually ADS faster than no stock. So if you're not liking this last suggestion with a stippled grip tape, I would say that a 5 milliwatt or tack laser is a good thing to substitute the stippled grip for if you like these. I personally do not like these. Again, I know that both of these are very popular with competitive gamers. I hate them. I hate having my location constantly given away, either from hipfire or if I'm sort of pre-aiming people. And while I do like to hipfire a lot, it's not worth it to me to be revealed. So I personally don't use these, but if you like them, you can make this class even better by junking the stippled grip tape and running either one if you're comfortable with that location reveal. And there's two things I wanted to tell you here at the end of the episode. Number one is that even the best MP5 class is not an assault rifle. I tried a lot. I tried a lot of different ranges of engagements, a lot of different, ways of rush and push and fight. And at the end of the day, outside of close quarters, the other assault rifles pounded me and my MP5 could not keep up. Please keep in mind that the MP5 is not a go-to all-around robust weapon or for ranges like something like the Growl or the MP7 or maybe something more like the AUG. The MP5 truly is your close quarters only melting machine, and outside of that, it's not super good. The other thing that I found while using this is that aiming down sights is your friend. You should hip fire as little as possible. I'm a sucker for hip fire. I played a ton of Apex and Overwatch. I love hip fire type weapons. That's just instinctively how I like to aim. But for the MP5, especially if you're not running the laser, it's not particularly good. I would strongly recommend ADSing as much as possible and don't rely on the hip fire. Guys, that is all for this episode of In Depth. I hope that you learned something useful. I hope you had a good time watching it. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.